The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum is hosting a virtual event this month to honor living survivors of the Holocaust. Organizers also hope the event will open the lines of communication about the critical lessons learned from that dark time in history and urge people to have open discussions about current tensions in the world. Joining us right now to talk more about this event is a man who can understand how important it is to learn and take action. Derek Black is a former white nationalist, godson of former KKK leader David Duke, and keynote speaker at the event coming up on September 15th. I know a lot of people would say, okay, wait, you are the most unlikely speaker here, but perhaps knowing hate as you did, you also know the importance of trying to quash it.
Yes, it's been years now since I renounced the white nationalist movement in 2013, but it was years before that it took to talk to me from an entire community of people at a liberal arts college that I attended. And I think that experience is something that's fairly universal, that people do not confront and change their beliefs or their ideology without sustained impact from a committed community of people.
Can you talk to us about that moment or what it was that changed your mind? I know you call it the awakening of a white nationalist, but to go against your entire family and really a way of life that you'd been brought up with, what was it that had you say, I can't do this anymore?
In fact, there really wasn't any one thing. My experience was about 3 years at a liberal arts college that was really committed to social justice and anti-racism. And when I arrived there, I was so convinced that white nationalism was factually and morally correct that I thought no one could convince me otherwise. And it was so many directions. It was people who condemned me, who said they didn't want a white supremacist in their midst and they wanted to prioritize students of color and Jewish students. And it was also people who invited me to quiet dinners and had these discussions where they would say, how can you possibly believe that this doesn't harm people or that this is justified? And all of these different directions were essential when I look back on it.
When you think about how ingrained your feelings are, do you have any concept of how many families feel the same way in this country that we may not even know about, things that are happening behind closed doors?
I think it's really hard to know what people really believe. If you're talking about the white nationalist movement, it's even harder. You're talking about a fairly small group of people, thousands, tens of thousands, but that's not the conclusion to that. Their activism, their work over decades radiates out into larger and larger groups of people who agree with more subtle, less extreme versions of white nationalist racist ideas. And I think that's really where we should be looking. People who, if someone close to them were to reach out, someone were to engage, they would challenge those beliefs. But as it stands, they are willing to listen and to hear these arguments in ways that I think we as a society have a responsibility to confront.
So it sounds like you want people to see the light, but can you expand more on your primary message? You have the stage in this event virtually, but you also do now with our viewers. Is there a primary message you want to send?
It is not some person who has tattoos on their face or who wears a Klan robe or who is walking around saying racial slurs that is the archetype for a racist. It is a person who has much more casual beliefs, someone who thinks that the south side of the city has crime because of the kind of people who live there, or somebody who believes that immigration from non-European countries is more dangerous to our culture. These are the sort of beliefs that are ingrained in American culture and American history, and we all know people who believe some version of them. And those are the things that begin the more extreme, the most extreme forms of this ideology.
And when it's hidden like that, it's harder to battle, clearly. And I know you say you feel the pandemic is fueling hate. We've done so many stories here about people coming together in the pandemic, yet there really is a dark side as well.
Absolutely. This situation causing economic harm to millions of people is a tinderbox for radicalization, is a tinderbox for people to become involved in the most extreme forms of antisocial movements. And we have plenty of evidence that that has been happening for months and is going to continue to ramp up. We should be very aware of it. We should be talking to people who we know. I just want to reinforce that this is not something that you see in a crime drama. This is many, many people coming from every walk of life with every career. You do not know what the sort of person is or what they look like who is responsive to these sort of extreme racist views. We should live our values, and we should speak to people throughout our life and reach out to the people we know in this time that's difficult for all of us.
Derek, I hope you'll indulge me a more personal question. You say knowledge is power, and people got together with you and said, okay, see the light, see what's really going on in this country. Have you been able to convince any members of your family and the people that you grew up with? And if not, how do they treat you now that you not only go against what they're thinking, but also are very vocal about it?
My family still leads the white nationalist movement and is fully involved and fully unconvinced by any arguments that I give. And to some extent, I don't think that's so surprising. I think people commit their entire lives to a belief system and to a worldview, and something what we call changing your mind is the biggest thing that can happen in your entire life. For me, it was the most pivotal moment, the most difficult thing I ever did. And it was only because of a community of people. I think that we make a mistake if we think that just having a conversation or throwing facts at someone is going to change their mind. It really takes a community. It really takes experience that contradicts your beliefs, and it really takes sustained time. If we go in expecting that we're going to shout someone down or invite them to a single dinner and think we're going to completely change their mind, we're going to be disappointed. But if we sustain that, if we consistently speak to the people who matter to us and who we have some connection to, we can make enormous changes and impacts in the world.
All right, hate's been around for a long time and love takes time. Derek Black, thank you so much. That virtual event is September 15th at noon. If you want more information, visit social media or ushmm.org. We will, of course, have a link on our webpage at WGNTV.com/midday.